Xerox taught me the importance of a process. Because when you have a process, you have a way of measuring what you're doing. And when you can measure it, you can fix it. But most presenters walk into a room with no system for improvement at all. On today's show, we're exploring how instructors and speakers can use a measurable performance system to dramatically improve delivery and engagement. And we've got a guest who's built a presenter measurement system that boosted knowledge retention dramatically. I want to hear about it. You ready? Let's go.
The Presentation Whisperer. Real-world tips, expert insights, and proven strategies to make every presentation unforgettable. Now, here's your host, professional speaker, and best-selling author, Rob Jellis.
Today's guest, Parker Wyatt. He's a Marine that created a simplified guide for a weapon system that became mandatory to carry during all training evolutions. And he rose from entry level to director of training within 5 years. He also created the presenter evaluation sheet that dramatically increased knowledge retention by, ready for this, 90%. I'm going to let him take it from here because he'll do a better job at telling you about his journey than I will. Welcome to the show, Parker. The floor is not lava, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate it. And I think everyone that is listening today really appreciate your time. As Rob said, my journey started in my time in the Marines. I started as a rifleman and was quickly placed into a weapons company that shot guns that were twice as big as the rifle itself. And so what I got to do is learn. And that is the first part that I think of any journey that becomes is learning. And so when I learned, I took this 200 plus manual into a nice pocket size that we could keep. And that was just kind of my first taste of being able to prepare myself. But later that would turn into how can I prepare others to be successful? And through a comical story of me deciding to take my rent money and purchase a bed instead, I joined a company that helped me find that passion and that purpose. And that is ultimately where this grading sheet became. As we came in 5 years, I was the director of training. I was very, very good at training. But what I was starting to learn and figure out is how do I train people to be as effective as I was? And so we start with this lovely grading sheet that I created to solve those problems. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it today.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. You know, it's funny. I got to out all my ugliness. I think I'm a damn good presenter and speaker, but I tell you, I kind of fell out of love with feedback forms because that was a measurement, but I just felt like, I don't know, many of them were sort of almost encouraging people to think of things they didn't like. I just never felt they were a fair assessment of trainers. And that's why I'm really interested in talking to you, because you're talking to kind of a skeptic, a guy who's seen, kind of crude measurement systems. And
Sure.
From a trainer's perspective, and I'm not alone, we don't like them all that much, but we know we need them. Parker,
Absolutely.
We know we need them. So let's back it up a little bit.
Sure.
How about this? What do you think we should be measuring? Because I just gave you an example of a question I hate, which is, tell me what you didn't like about this session. Okay? Don't encourage them. They'll tell you if they didn't like it. What should we be measuring?
So I kind of go back to a little story that ties up where this grading sheet even came from. And this came from my boss, a great mentor, great leader. And this actually translates even further away into, I'm not sure if you've heard of Jocko Willink, but Jocko Willink wrote the book Extreme Ownership and has a podcast. And in one of those episodes that Blake was listening to, he was talking about this level 5 leader type concept. And he was like, Parker, I want you to be that level 5. And I listened to the podcast, and ultimately what it was not measuring yourself to the easy 100. That's average. And I feel like when we're set up for college and courses and things like that, we see the 100 and we're like, oh, I can do that. But if 100 is that very easily accessible thing, then why can't we get to that next level if everyone can get to the 100? So ideally, to me, that's not 100%. And that's where this grading sheet came into play, which was I want you to say that a 3 out of 5, because this is how it was ranked, was at a 1 to 5 basis. A 3 is good. A 3 will make you a successful presenter, a successful instructor. But to go further into this is what is that level 5? And I'd like to use my first example here to give you that, which is time management, right?
Okay.
All presenters, all good, all strong presenters understand I keep within my time. But this is how I describe time management within my grading sheet. You ready?
Yep.
All right, so we go. Information is delivered with exceptional fluidity. Each topic connects seamlessly, and transitions are clear and purposeful, ensuring every shift feels natural and reinforces a sense of continuity and focus for the audience. Now, tell me, have you ever heard of time management being described to such a high level detail?
No. No, it
Nope.
was now what I have heard is time management broken into components.
Right.
Sometimes, 10, 15 different components and then kind of measured and studied that way. So, but that the whole time management concept, I started to break in, but I used to I used to teach Lakin's time management theory when I was at Xerox, and we were making A, B, C lists, throwing out the C's,
Right.
putting Swiss cheese in the A's and focusing on the B's, but that's so elementary when you think about it. So no, I've never heard it broken down the way you're talking, but I have heard it broken out into components.
Right. Yeah, and this is the whole point of this and why I think it truly is so effective is this is a mindset. This is not just okay, check this off, do this series, do this system. This is this actually happening? And what's nice is you still have that checklist mentality, right? Is it fluid? Did I ruin a transition? Did I interrupt or try to rush it? Right? Am I seeing that oh no, I have 2 minutes left. Can I tie this up in 2 minutes? Well, I didn't hit my time management if I'm having to rush the ending. Now there's adaptability. Of course, we have to play the adaptability role as presenters, as instructors. But the idea is the perfect 5 is I didn't have to worry about any of that from beginning to end. There's fluidity, there's transitions. They make sense. They're not rushed from one to the other. And at the end, the audience was focused the entire time in their allotted time.
All right, but is a 5 possible? I mean, are you allowing for a 5 in this grading system? Xerox had a grading system too, 1 to 5. And
Yep.
the first thing they told us was, don't ever expect to see a 5. Okay? It's a unicorn. If you might meet somebody once in your life who got one. To calm everybody down, we were pushing for 4s. Okay, but 3 was not considered good. 3 was considered. I remember when I was teaching new hires at Xerox, I tell them a 3 isn't terrible, but you can put nails in the wall because you're not going to be moving offices. You're not
Exactly.
going anywhere. So what am I trying to on this 5-point scale? Does your scale allow for 5 being a realistic number?
5 is absolutely realistic, but it is very, very difficult to get.
Right.
And I wouldn't say it's necessarily the unicorn, and I wouldn't say that it's necessarily 1 out of 1,000. But the idea is, can the intent be caught? Are these, yes, technically being checked off? But I can say, hey, of this entire time management, you connected all the pieces, but the last one just seemed a little rough, right? And so 4.5, right?
Okay.
And so it's very meticulous. And the idea is to take this to be meticulous. So while a 5 is achievable, and I've seen numerous people hit their 5s on any one of these grade shades, even multiple components of the grades, I don't want that to be the easy
Yeah.
scale at the same time.
Yeah, now that I'm following. Yeah, we can't all get A pluses on the exam.
Exactly.
You know, I had a manager also who once told me, because I came in, we had a 10-point scale when we were doing our feedback forms, and you know, straight tens, and I got straight tens again. Now read them and weep, sir. And I remember him telling me, you know what I'm looking for. This is your 5, by the way. He said, I'm looking for a program that was so great that that 3 or 4 people from the class said it's so good we need to bring this into our office. We need to pay for 10 more of these. And actually, as a consultant, I've been out on my own for 33 years, and I have trainers that go out for me from time to time. I'm not really looking. The 10 isn't really what I'm after, or the 5. I'm looking for something that was so phenomenal that the client wanted to buy more of it. They wanted more of it. And so you could drop something on the floor, or miss this, or screw up on a module, but you could mask it or handle it in such a professional way that it actually enhanced your performance. So I think ultimately for me, it's what's the reaction of the audience? That's where I want my numbers.
And that's a phenomenal transition to our next one in the grain sheets.
Did we practice this at all?
I appreciate it. We did it.
I'll just keep lobbing them up for you.
Well, thank you, Rob. Yeah, so the big thing is the audience, and the one thing that I've noted is, can we get that connection? So I'll read you the level 5 for the engagement with the audience. The presenter's authenticity, and I want to underline that, bold that, highlight that. We all know the presenter's authenticity anchors the relationship between the content and the audience, fostering trust and genuine engagement. I can underline that about 1,000 times as well. Genuine engagement. Aware of that bond with the audience, the presenter responds intuitively to the audience's feedback, cultivating an experience where engagement deepens into full immersion. And that is the next level, and that is what everybody is wanting. And that is why it is the very last thing on this grade sheet to make sure that people truly take in. Okay.
Now, what if we simplified that? Don't shoot me. But
it's okay.
I'm coming from another. I'm following your. What the good news is, I'm not following you as a trainer. I'm following you as a manager right now. But I'm following your system of, 1, you're not going to be here much longer. 2, you're on corrective action, but you might survive. 3, average work. Actually, our definition was meets and occasionally exceeds expectations. Okay.
Yep.
4, exceeds expectations in all areas. Sure. And then 5 was basically does it exceptionally. Do you remember an Olympic champion? I'm going back some years, but a guy named Bart Connor. He was probably like 80s, might have been 90s. Okay. It was the first time the Americans won a gold medal at the men as a team. Maybe they won it in the 30s, but while I was around, let's put it that way. And but he came and did a presentation, and he said he tried to physically show us what those numbers you're talking are about. And he had a pommel horse, and he began to swing on that pommel horse. And to see an Olympic champion work a pommel horse, within 10 feet of him is something you'll never forget. But when he finished, he said, "That's an 8. Want to see it as a 9?" And he flew off this thing about 3-5 feet higher, and it was like, I didn't know the body could do that. And he said, "Now you want to see what a 10 looks like?" But to this day, that probably 35 years ago, I saw that presentation. I never forgot it, because it was the first time where we're taking this conversation you and I are having, and I actually saw it sort of play out physically. Yep. And so to me, yes, genuine, authentic, I'm following you, but it's a level of delivery that, quite frankly, takes your breath away.
Absolutely.
And that's hard to write on paper, but I know it when I see it.
Yep. And I love that component. I know it when I see it, right? And that's the idea. That's why I didn't want to make this a checklist. I have the check capabilities, right? I can show you, hey, right here is XYZ. But the mindset that this creates is really what it is. Because I remember I listened to one of your episodes, and you talked about how you were 100%, you knew this topic, and you were teaching and it was doing everything right. And then after a time, you felt disconnection and you felt like, and you asked, like, where's my, I need feedback. What can I do to make this better? And I think that's such a detrimental component. I think one of the components was the mindset. You almost got too good. And actually, you stated you did get too good. And within that, we lost the connection. And
Right.
so here we talk about that connection has to be there. If I'm not connected, if I'm on autopilot, I'm not connecting with my audience. I'm speaking to my audience.
Right.
And so these concepts, and there's 10, 11 of these guys, they're all about, can you foster the mindset to wow your audience, to connect them? And it doesn't always have to be for the training, the upbeat salesman engages with everybody, right? We're not looking at Kevin Hart and trying to be funny. There is a connection to the audience that can be played at every single level. And I talked about underlining and bolding authenticity. And that's really I think the key. Before you start with this grade sheet, you should really identify, what is your authentic self? Who are you? I am not an extrovert by any means. I love training though, and it is very difficult to get me to stop talking once I start training. And everyone's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you're an introverted soul or anything along the lines. But the truth is, I am. The reason why I can perform the way that I can perform, the reason why that I can be this elaborate human, is that I love helping people, and I love helping people be successful. And that allows me to be engaging, that allows me to shake hands and meet everybody and keep a conversation going. Because my purpose and my intent is to just help. And I always think of a pianist in this, as I used to talk about the analogy. We think of, in a general scope, a good pianist is that 100 miles an hour down the keys, right? But if that was the case, and that truly was the case, then why aren't all piano compositions 100 miles an hour all the way throughout the song, every song? And I think we kind of take that for granted sometimes. We see that skill level, and it's a great skill level to have, but it doesn't mean that it's the skill level that you need to have. It is something you should definitely keep in your back pocket. That's a big saying, I say. Keep it in your back pocket. Use it when you need it. But there are some beautiful, beautiful works out there with the slowest set of keys ever, because that is the authenticity of that composition. And so I strongly encourage, before this grade sheet, I know it's hard to, because we want to improve and we want to get that feedback, but who are you as a person? Who are you trying to achieve? And does that line up with what you're presenting, with what you're training? And if you don't have that connection, you can have all of these skills and you'll be good. And there's proven success that people can learn these skill sets in this trade and be good at it. But you'll never be that level 5 unless you're abiding by the true authentic person that you are.
Well, that's really is well said, and that's the tough one to measure. And I'm glad you're saying it, because when we started, it felt like a lot of check boxes, and I'm like, ugh. Because I think authenticity is just. Somebody told me this one time, maybe in one of my previous podcasts, I was mentioning this, but because now that I know you're listening, yeah, you cherry picked the one where I wasn't doing so well, but nice work.
I'm sorry.
That's right. By the way, for anybody who wants that story in 20 seconds, I just went through a slump. I got so good at what I was doing, I didn't realize that, to your point, I was I was almost coming off smug. And I wasn't really coming off as authentic. I was coming off as mechanical. And so I had to kind of loosen it up a little bit. And I flew an instructor out who spotted that for me, but it was unnerving. All right, but let's jump back. I'll tell you, because I'm writing a piece right now. And I'm excited about it because it's going to be probably slid into a book and a couple other things. But I was really trying to isolate what's the most important component of a performer or presenter or trainer, but anybody who just steps in front of a room. And I've landed on timing. Timing. When people, and sometimes it's easy for people, sometimes it's more challenging, but when you have the right timing, it plays into just what you're talking about. It feels like we're having a conversation at Starbucks. It doesn't feel like you are presenting to me on a podcast. Pitch doesn't hurt either, by the way.
Absolutely.
And pace. But timing is so important. I think it's undervalued. And to me, looking at without seeing your system, I see almost 4 as you did, like that Bart Connor example. You nailed the routine without one error. But 5, you displayed a level of timing that was, breathtaking. That really moved the room. So you got the information out, but you also inspired that room. And if you don't have the right timing, I think that's that domino trips over a bunch of others. I think we lose what you're saying.
Sure. And I think I love that you said timing, because it is such a powerful tool in both kind of what we know, which is that long delayed pause, right? Where we really want them to absorb it. But I also like timing along with, we talk about tone and pitch, and I know those kind of elaborated in there as well. But man, if you can tie those together, you can create a visual masterpiece with your words without a single adjective. And I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do. And that's really what becomes breathtaking. And we talk about the compositions, right? It's not just about being fast. It's not about being slow and deliberate. It's about connecting and interweaving these pieces for a truly powerful composure that just lightens the room, and they can see it and it draws them in, and you start to see them creep forward in their seats. You start to actually, what you start to see? Less writing. Yeah. I notice all the time when I would use this sheet and I would start grading them, and they would hit, and it was the nonverbal, right? The auditory, the pitch, the tone, and the timing. And I would just stop, and I would see myself leaning forward thinking, and then it would be over, and I'm like, oh, I didn't write anything down. So then I had to go back and fill everything out with what I remember. But that is absolutely the pinnacle between good, where it is successful, people got content, they got a message, they learned something, to someone now going out and saying, you have to listen to this. It is just that good, and I won't be able to explain it.
Yeah. I think some people will be misled when they hear the word timing, because we're not talking about, although it's an important component, how you're timing out your various modules. Okay. That is important. That's a whole nother show in terms of, where we speed up and slow down. But when you get on a stage, and you can be, pretty grizzled veteran at this too, what most people don't realize is that there's a little bit of kick of adrenaline, and the adrenaline is changing your clock. So what feels slower to you is actually not slower. It's at a normal speed. And so it's almost unnatural to slow down. The only way to do it, Parker, in my opinion, is to be so in the moment, which is what we're really praying we can get to, but to be so in the moment that we're not talking at this group of people anymore. As you sort of mentioned, we're talking with them. We're just having a conversation with a bunch of our friends in our living room, but it's a big living room and there's a lot of friends there. Okay.
That's right.
But that's really the only way to find it naturally, is to take the focus off the stage a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that's really hard to get to for newer speakers and trainers. And so, that's why we have to leave visual cues and things like that, because I'd love to say, I'll just remind you a bunch of times, but it's I'd like to remind me about my posture every now and then. I'm reminded when I go by a mirror, and then I straighten up.
Yep, get the
we
posture.
Need those reminders a little bit in terms of slowing down, because I think when we slow down, a lot of what you're looking for. We're really I'm going to stop this in a second, but I'm really obsessing on this, How do we go from a 4 to a 5?
Right.
And you can see this gray area that we've landed in. But the good news is, and we're in agreement on this, as we said, we'll know it when we see it. We'll know it
Yep.
when we hear it. But for those who are listening going, but how do I get it? As natural as you can be. Stop playing this out as such a big event and just go in there and enjoy the conversation that you're blessed to be having with a group of people. That's what I try and focus on, and that can slow me down a little bit.
Absolutely. And I'll even give a little pro tip. And we'll
Okay.
talk, well, just with timing. No tone,
Okay.
no pitch. A little bit of it will be there. But if there's something important that we want to say, we generally have the urge and maybe do or don't do these things. And I'm telling you that we should. If it's really important, I can't say it fast enough. I want you to have it. And a lot of times you'll see me step forward to the crowd because my words are not fast enough. I have to step forward and get you there. And you hear right now. I wanted you to know more. I spoke a little quickly. But now, right there, that pause, that gave you time to realize and reflect that I was speaking quickly. And now I can use this delay to really open the mind and expand and absorb that in, because absorbing is slower. So I can be quick and I can give you all this information because I want you to have it because I'm excited about it. But if I don't give you time to absorb that and then I just turn into an auctioneer, well, we have no idea what auctioneers are saying, right? We're looking for a number and that's it.
Well, now, wait a minute. I am 16 years as a licensed bonded live auctioneer, but I only do charities. Well, you're absolutely right, though. We chant, and that's what it's referred to. We chant to change the pace and bring in that energy. However, if we chanted the entire auction, as they say, emphasize everything, emphasize nothing, we would be right back where we started from. Okay, we'd actually, isn't that ironic when you think about it? We would force the audience away from us. We would bore the audience by going so quickly. But to change pace, and we'll step out of, sorry, but when I hear auction, I light up.
You're welcome.
Oh, yeah. But when we step out of the auctioneer, what I've taken from that and brought into presenting is changing paces, like a pitcher. Just change the pace of that pitch. You can throw it. There's guys that do throw it 101, 102 in the minor leagues, but they either can't control it or they throw it right down the middle of the plate. And that can be hit hard. Changing the pace of that pitch, that's what makes it hard. So, yeah, we want to change that rhythm that we're looking at. It's tough. All right, let's drop back a little bit. As I told you, I think that traditionally we're measuring either compliments or criticism. Mm-hmm. How do we get out of that? And I want training managers to be listening right now because the grunts who were busting their tails in the pit there, as we call it, they're just going. But you're evaluating them. And I think the natural move is, I'm going to tell you what I liked. I'm going to tell you what I didn't like. What else should we be measuring? How do we break that pattern?
Right. Well, so what I liked about this is, like I said, I cover, I think it's 11 and forward of a story. You know how you work on something and that is your pride and your joy. And then you look at it 3 years from now and you're just like, this is not it. Well, this is what this was. And that's why I keep saying 10 or 11, because I had 12. I updated it because it just wasn't it. So you're actually getting the 2.0 here in live. And what it still does, and what I'm grateful for, is you can see what's green, you can see what's in a yellow, and you can see what's in a red. And I have always focused on the green and the red first. What is good? What do they need to keep doing? But what would make the greatest difference? And that's what's in the red. And that's what we can work on first. And what's also very unique, and I will try not to talk about it so much, but these intertwine. And even though they're their own individual component, when you're able to increase one, you're generally able to increase 3 or 4 of these. And that's why I don't focus on a yellow, because one, if I tell you 5 things to work on, how many are you going to remember tomorrow or a month from now?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But if I give you
Yeah.
one thing, that is your purpose, that is your mission for a month to work on, I think we're going to remember it. And you know exactly what it is because we got feedback. This is why the tone was off. This is why pitch was good here, but it's inconsistent. Now we know how to focus on a consistency. This is how we worked on timing. You had timing great here, and then all of a sudden you realized you were out of time. And so we spoke extra quickly to try to wrap it all up instead of being able to adapt to the audience, slow ourselves down, and create that picture that naturally wraps it up. Because as you also said, I'll give you some extra kudos. What they don't know, they don't know.
Right.
And so we can do that in a natural
Brilliant
way.
of me.
Right.
Boy, I was really on fire that day.
That was another one, I think. I listened to a couple, and they were
I have better ones than that, folks. I promise. Keep going.
But they don't know what they don't. And what I mean by that is, right, it's like, there was a lot that I wanted added to my story. You didn't know that story, but you still got great content. And so focusing just on the nonverbal tone, pitch, timing, well, I probably improved my time management. I probably improved my speech, and that probably improved the engagement with the audience.
Right.
So that's how I like to focus this, and that's how you should approach this sheet as well.
Yeah. And just to mop that up a little bit, what you were referring to is unconscious incompetency, when we don't know what we don't know. And it's a level of learner, including ourselves. Okay, let me throw this last question by you and see how we do. I have always followed a model. And remember, what I love about this show is just because I followed it doesn't make it right. So I'm talking to a guy who does these things here. I've always followed a model when I've pulled a couple of things that I want you to work on. To your point of, let's actually work on them and get them fixed rather than we give you 7. Right. I've always gone in 2s. I've always found 2 things that I like, not just to be a nice guy, but because half the time people don't know that they're doing things properly. And if I don't cue in on that, there's no guarantee I'll see it the next time. It also makes people, empowers them, makes them feel a little better. But I will not go with more than 2. I don't like the word criticism. I call them alternatives, but criticisms. Okay. But 2 things. But I don't just go, 1, your timing was off. 2, your PowerPoint slides are too busy. That's where we stop and we go, okay, so let's start with timing. We might be 10 minutes on timing. And what are we going to work on, and how are we going to check back on that, and what do you need from me? But let's fix timing, okay? Yeah. And let's fix the other piece as well, so that for many managers who are listening, or even if we're giving feedback to ourselves, imagine how much we'd improve if we each time really developed a game plan for the 2 biggest things that we need to work on. Not 5. Absolutely. I'm with you. I think 3 is too many.
Yep.
2. But don't just call them out. Figure out a game plan to fix them, and you'll see people improve. And that's the way we need to talk to ourselves too. Don't beat yourself up after a delivery. Pick 2, figure out how to fix it, and don't call those 2 out ever again. And let's keep moving forward. But that's always been my approach in getting 2 from people. We okay on that one?
I'll accept 2. 1 or 2. I think we should do 1 or 2 because it depends on what you're working on.
Do you like 1 instead of 2?
It just depends, and I could say that for everything, right? It just depends. I think we could all say that.
Yeah.
And that's why I like ranges. Mm. And so I would say 1 to 2 because it depends on the 1 or the 2. Did the 2 coincide with each other, or are they completely different?
Right.
And that's why I give the argument of it depends. And if you're struggling with which 1 or 2 do I pick 1? Do I pick 2? In the end, I always say it doesn't necessarily matter. And I want to give people comfortability within that. If you're improving on at least 1 thing, you're improving. Right. If you are better than you were yesterday, you're improving. And if that means that you just read a little article on how to improve timing, you're improving. If that means you decided to consult with someone for an hour, have them watch you for an hour, give you feedback for an hour, and coached you all the way through for the next month, that's still improving.
Okay.
So I say it depends. Now, what I will also reinstate is, even though these are things that we are working on, whatever it is, don't forget it needs to be authentic with who you are.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And, I liked your depends answer as well. Let's not make jokes about that. Because, but I think, again, I want to keep talking to these managers. It wouldn't depend if you were very clear and focused on your feedback, okay? It too would probably work just fine. But if we give feedback like, well, the first thing, Parker, I want you to work on is your delivery, okay? And the second thing, there's 19 components of that delivery. But
Absolutely.
if we isolate something, so to me, maybe that's a symptom of a different illness of, if you can't get your hands wrapped around one component, the component's probably a little too large.
Sure.
And I've seen managers, and I've been a manager. I may have made that mistake once or twice myself. So we kind of go back and we figure out, really try and, okay, there was a delivery issue. I get it. But if there were one thing, just one thing you'd want that trainer or speaker to work on within their delivery, what would it be? X, got it. That's where our feedback will focus.
Absolutely.
That's a good way of kind of working our way around it. Oh, okay. Well, you've been around the block and back again on feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
How do people get a hold of you?
LinkedIn is usually my go-to and what I recommend. And it's just linkedin.com/in/Parker-Wyatt. So,
Yeah. And WYATT,
and I recommend that.
right?
WYATT. Absolutely. Thank you.
Good.
And absolutely the best way. If you would like help or how to utilize this grading sheet or would like any feedback from me, I promise you, be very analytical, but I'm very supportive. Again, I am here to help, and I want to help you be successful. And I will give you all the tools and necessities, 1 to 2 at a time, to be able to assist you through this. And we can do that as many times as you want.
Right. And I want to encourage people to think about reaching out to Parker, because, and I'll tell you why, and I don't often stop and do a commercial, but the reason why you're getting a commercial is because I'm not getting a lot of people in here that are talking about this. And when feedback is handled improperly, it can devastate a career. It can devastate a person. And I've seen it firsthand. And nobody, not malicious, but just clumsy. We got to be careful. If you've got a top performer up there, most likely they're a bit of a competitor. And if they're a competitor, you don't want to cut their legs out from under them. So that's why we're really asking you to focus, and it takes a little practice. So think about reaching out to Parker. I did. That's how he and I met on LinkedIn. But he responds to emails. So
I do too.
Firsthand, I know that. Anyway, it was great meeting you. Really enjoyed the conversation, because there is what you also taught us was there's no perfect answer to any of these questions. We still need to kind of rely on our instinct and information. So, but it's too important to not focus on. So we got a resource there for you in Parker. You know where to find them. That's WYATT. And just a pleasure meeting you. Thanks so much for being on the show, really.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.